my friends. Welcome to Conversations with Arundhati. Bite-sized episodes for busy people who want to learn about staying healthy, life hacks, endometriosis and women's health from me and other experts in the field. I also will be sharing fun snippets from my life as I learn and unlearn about life in general. Let's dive into today's episode. Hello everyone, welcome to today's episode. How is everyone feeling today? So before I go any further, I just want to let everyone know that today's episode is an endometriosis specific episode. So if it's not relevant to you, I will see you on Thursday for my wellness episode. So today's episode, we're talking about how to bounce back after a bad episode, like a bad trigger or a bad flare from endometriosis. We all know what that feels like, right? You're probably exhausted from the bodily pain, or you just feel extreme chronic fatigue. You've been hit by a bus, or you probably are exhausted from the back and forth ER visits, or you're feeling drowsy with all the medication, or you were sleeping all day on the couch. You just did not answer. You were, inside in your own little little world, right? Little bubble. Or you were probably crying your way out, asking for a way out, right? So we all know how bad an episode can be. But we also know that in some cases, say these last for a few hours, it can be few days, sometimes weeks, months. But in some cases, these do subside. The effects, the pain, these do subside. Right? And you start to feel a little better, a little normal. But then we get hit with the next phase. That is the guilt, right? And we're mentally exhausted, like drained. And then you also realize that life is still happening out there, that, life has been going on. So you feel guilty that you missed out on certain obligations or responsibilities, right? Or you probably you had to say no, change plans in the last minute. Or you also probably feel guilty that, I did this activity and I know that is what caused this. Or, it was that food item that caused this. And that can cause guilt too, right? So you realize that life has happened and now you have to deal with it. Even though the episode has passed, you're not 100%, you're not yourself still, and you still have to deal with life because that was not on pause. So this episode, I'm going to share with you 4 tips that you can hopefully navigate this phase, right, efficiently without getting overwhelmed, right? So step number 1 is mindset check. Right? This can be of twofold, like I'll tell you like a simpler version, and then if you're brave enough to do the second one, right? So because we really need to do the internal work. I know you really wish you just want to get on with life, but this internal work that we do is super important to make sure that you have a better life, right? Make sure you're able to manage your mental health also. So first of all, my suggestion is just do the internal work. One of it, the easiest is just have a chat with yourself. Like ideally you can do it in front of a mirror, like be very visual, be very present with yourself, and just have a chat and say, are you okay? And I'm sorry that you went through this. You can be specific. I'm sorry that you went through abdominal pain, or I'm sorry you went through extreme nausea, or whatever that may be. Just be specific and validate it. You did definitely go through it. It's not in your head, and I'm sorry that you went through it, and say that you're not alone and we're going to work through it together. So when you have that connection and when you validate it that it did happen, you feel like you're not alone, and you're kind of pushing past it rather than having it all built up. And sometimes when other people talk about it, these can trigger unless you've done the inner work, unless you've healed it yourself first, right? So the easiest way is this, like you have that chat in front of the mirror, or you do the journal. Like I love, like if you've been listening to the podcast long enough, you know that I absolutely love journaling because it is absolutely magically beneficial, right? So when you put pen to paper, you start to write, it is therapeutic, right? It is known that it is therapeutic. So you really learn, the things that you probably were not sure before, but you're like, okay, that was in my head, this is something that's been bothering me, this is something that I feel. When you put all of that out there in paper, one thing, you heal faster, and you're also able to objectively look at what happened, right? And not constantly get triggered when you are discussing these with other people, because you first have to know how you feel about it and the real feeling, not looking at it with the eyes of when you were having the pain, but now you're objectively looking at it and seeing what you can do, right? And you're validating it, right? So that's number one. First, do the internal work, have that chat, have that connection. And also, when you just my tip for you is write it like a story. You can write from the beginning to the end, like just write it out. And once you've said, written it, you're like, okay, you send it out to the world and it's done. You've been dealt with, that has been dealt with. So it's really important that you do that portion. Number two, you have to evaluate, right? Because now there are certain things you first have to evaluate. How are you physically, mentally? What are the capacities you have at the moment? Are you able to do things, And then you check on the timelines, because there are certain responsibilities that may need your time, your effort urgently, right? So you'll have to do that evaluation. This also is really important, put pen to paper, just really write it down without having in your head. Otherwise, when you're having things in your head, you tend to get more overwhelmed. But once you put it down and write it, you're like, oh, it's not that bad, because our mind can confuse us. And especially after dealing with the episode, if we try to handle all this in our mind, you're not even giving yourself setting up yourself for success. So really write down and see, okay, what are the tasks that I need to do? What are the forms of communication I need to do? Do I have to send out a few emails for work, right? And now you're able to communicate properly, because you know what happened, you validated it, and you're not going to send an email. You're going to send the email with the right information of what happened, and let's get to work. What are we going to do, right? And also, it can be that you probably have to delegate work, or if it's household chores, have that chat with your partner, your siblings, your parents, whoever that may be with you, or if you need help with certain tasks, right? And this can also help you communicate better and not get triggered, like I said before. If you did the step one, now when people are asking questions about it, okay, what exactly happened during that trigger, then during that episode, you're not gonna be like in a victim mentality and get upset over everything that people are asking, because sometimes they may not be trying to hurt you, they genuinely want to find out what's going on. So if you have done the inner work, healed, and really realized what the actual episode was, you're able to discuss it properly. And even if they don't validate, you still know you validated it, and that's what's most important, right? So that this step one of doing the internal work, I cannot stress it enough. Please do that, then the others become a lot easier, right? So after you evaluate, then you'll also know to prioritize. Certain things may have to be pushed to next week, or next month, or whatever that may be. You're able to organize them better. And while you're doing this, right, so you're looking into your work, your personal your chores, etc. But I also invite you at this time to schedule an activity that you absolutely love, that absolutely might make you feel better. So it can be a movie, it can be going dancing, whatever that may be. Just make sure that you do that, you schedule that also, because you're giving yourself to relax a little, because we deserve it. We went through something quite traumatic probably, and giving that grace to ourselves and compassion and love, especially during this time, can help you navigate this space and enjoy life a lot better, right? So don't forget on the fun activity. So step number 3 is wellness steps, right? This is very important. I know people try to cringe when I mention wellness, but you can't run away from it. We are present in our body, and we are experiencing these things in our body, right? In our mind. So we need to naturally look after our health. So the best, obviously, I would suggest is yoga, because I'm qualified, and I know the background behind it, and it's actually quite gentle. So it's not going to be strenuous, especially with us endo girls. These are very, especially hatha yoga actually. These are very gentle, loving, therapeutic practices. So it can help you reboost your energy, reconnect with your body, relax your nervous system, because especially after an episode, your body is probably in a fight and flight situation. It was trying to support you, right? So if you do a session of yoga, breath work, meditation can really help you really recharge yourself, right? And with your mental health also. If you can't do yoga, etc., but at least do some breath work, breathing, or even just going for a simple walk, right? Because we know those are not going to flare and any triggers, but it's going to help you, right? So my last tip for you is evaluate your episode. That this is something people actually don't do it. So this is really important, because for me personally, I have been evaluating I've not had an episode, and I have been honest about this, in the last 5-6 years. But for me to get there, I started journaling and recording absolutely everything, from my bowel movement, from my mindset, my mental health, to everything I did that day, everything I ate that day, what exercises I did, everything I started recording, and then I started to realize the patterns. So I'm not telling you to do the same thing, because it can be overwhelming. What I am asking of you is to evaluate this specific episode. See what exactly happened. Write that down. What was it? Like, where was the specific pain? What level of pain was it? What that made you, what did it not let you do? Like, what were the restrictions, right? And then also go back a little and see what may have caused it. What food you may have had. Activities. So once you have that all written, you may be able to figure out that there are certain patterns in these episodes, and that can be helpful, right? And also, say this episode comes again and you have to go to the doctor, etc., you have it recorded. Like, you don't go there and you're like stumbling over words, thinking, what am I going to say? It was like this, it was like that, and then you don't look like you know what you're talking, and then again the doctor is not able to guide you. So if you have this written down, a record, how you felt, all those things, then you may be able to manage the next episode, if it does come, a little better, right? So those were the four tips, and I hope you found this valuable. I know it's not really what you want. Like, after an episode, you just want to lie on your bed and just not deal with anything. It's fine. I mean, you can do that too. You can just, lie and relax for a day or two. But I invite you to go through this process, because that way you are taking steps actively in embracing your diagnosis, embracing this illness. Because we can't just ignore it, because it keeps coming back. It'll interrupt our life, and that is what endometriosis is. So this helps you really get hold of things. And when you also are about to get an episode, you may not have the anxiety or the stress, but you'll be like, oh, okay, I know I can handle this. You might be a little better prepared. So I hope you found this valuable, and please do share with anyone else who is suffering. And thank you so much for hanging out. And remember, you're not alone. Your symptoms, your pains are not in your head. Remember that. Your pain is valid. And remember, you're not alone, and I'm here if you want to reach out. There are so many amazing communities out there. And please just work at it actively to find your own way of embracing endo. Speak to you soon, my lovelies. Bye for now, and we'll see you on Thursday for the wellness episode.